Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer, and we're here to talk about real estate. And believe it or not, if you are a member of the general consuming public, you are probably underinformed, overinformed, misinformed about real estate. And I know that's hard to hear. You probably want to hate me. If there was a comment section below your radio, you would be entering in nasty comments about me and how I don't understand that you know everything about real estate. But guess what? Even I don't know everything about real estate. And none of the people in this room do, but we know more than you do, probably. And speaking of the other people in this room, we have a real estate broker, Sue Pearce. Would you please introduce yourself? Tell us about your business.
Hi, yes, thank you. And I agree with you, Patrick. We don't know everything. My name is Sue Pearce of the Sue Pearce team. I work for J.W. Reedy out in the western suburbs. I've been in the business for many, many years, almost 30. And my philosophy is my tagline: no bull, no nonsense, just real estate. You can reach me by email. It's team, T-E-A-M, at Sue, SUEPEARCE.com. Or you can call me or text me at 630-675-9979. And yes, you can find me on all the social media apps under Sue Pearce team. And I would love a chance to talk to you about all the things I do know.
That's what's up. And, you know, go find all of us on social media, because that you can get our expertise for free and at any time. If you're like a 2 a.m. person, you're just like, I'd like to know about real estate, go find Sue on social media and consume all of her good stuff. All right. So that is Sue. We also have a young gentleman who I will introduce as Mark McCutcheon in the studio. Mark, tell us about you.
Hey, Mark McCutcheon. I'm with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Excuse me. And I work with Charlie, who's the normal host. And
normal.
Yeah, I've been at it now 8 years. So checking out houses on a daily basis, really seeing a lot of stuff. You can imagine that doing that every single day, you get very familiar not only with houses, but with transactions and the madness that goes down with all of it. So.
Yeah, no doubt. How do we get in touch with you over at Chicagoland Home Inspectors?
So you can do thehomeinspectors.com is the website.
That's THE, not thehomeinspectors.com.
Yeah, that's definitely my Chicago accent coming through, which is why we're at WCPT. Or you can call 312-544-9180.
That's what's up. My understanding, Mark, is that
Sorry, just back the camera off just a hair. There we go. Now
just a hair. Mark, my understanding is you are a drummer in a band, and you're about to release some new material.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot and have you plug yourself and tell us where to find your music.
Yeah, so it's mycanadiangirlfriend.com.
Boy, I wasn't expecting that. We never asked you what the name of your band was.
Yep. So the story goes that our singer and main songwriter guitar guy had a girlfriend in Canada that we hadn't met, and
she goes to a different school.
Yeah, this went on for like a full year that we never met her. So we just always saying, like, giving him a hard time about it, that she didn't, of course, really exist and things of that nature.
Does she exist?
She's the Canadian wife.
That is, I love that story, man. So tell us where to find your music.
Yeah, well, we are My Canadian Girlfriend, and it is mycanadiangirlfriend.com. Yeah, we're going to be releasing one pandemic album that we recorded during that, and then a new one that we just finished, and they're all going to come out this summer. So it's going to be a lot of material.
Going to find you on Spotify or Bandcamp?
Yes,
or?
all of it. So
nice.
We're pretty much everywhere. You can find it Apple Music, Spotify.
All right. So you all know, the tens of you that listen and love this show, go find Mark's band. Go give him a 5-star rating, because he deserves it, and he works very hard on this stuff. And help us out a little bit. Come on, we're giving you all this free knowledge and content. The least you could do is follow us on social media and go give Mark a nice 5-star rating on his band.
Check it out.
Now, not in studio, but with us nonetheless, is my good friend, Joey Mathews, the VA loan nerd. Joey, tell us about you, and give us some good news about the market, but since you are like the bizarro predictor of things, give us some bad news about the market so I can feel good.
That's how I roll, dog. Hi, PJ. So this is Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at theVALoanNerd.com across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd. You can always feel free to call or text me at 630-235 2405. And in the market, we have PCE, personal consumer expenditures, coming out on Friday.
That's a big one.
Anticipating it's the biggest measure, or the favorite measure by the Fed for inflation, right?
All right, what is PCE? Give us that background first, please.
Stop spending money. We will tell you that's what it is. It's how much money you're spending. Okay?
Charlie, if you're listening, stop it.
Yeah, get off of here.
Buying
I'm
cars and
gonna
plane
be here
tickets.
next week. So PC's coming out on Friday. Is it going to come in hot? Is it going to come in short? I'm not going to guess because I'm sick of being wrong. But I was anticipating a sell-off tomorrow, just as traders anticipate hotter numbers. However, the sell-off started yesterday because a totally innocuous measure came in higher than anticipated, and it was just oh my gosh, consumer confidence. That's not what it's called, but that is essentially what it is. It's the consumer outlook on the economy came in very strong yesterday, which was a surprise to most people, because if people feel good about the economy, they start spending money, and that's why they're worried about PCE coming in hot on Friday. So we saw the sell-off start yesterday. The sell-off is continuing today. The 10-year Treasury yield is up from 4.3% last week to 4.6% yield right now. As the 10-year Treasury moves up, rates move up with it, because people also sell off mortgage-backed securities when they're selling off 10-year bond yields, long-dated yields. But yeah, that's what's coming up in the short term. That's what's happening in the last couple of days. It's been very, very flat otherwise up until yesterday. So we keep rolling along. Buy houses, people.
Yeah.
Buy houses.
Joey, sure, buy houses, because if inflation stays high, then you're buying a house or buying real estate is going to be a great hedge against that. But Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have and don't we continue to have really a lot of readjustments? We'll get this PCE number out on Friday, and then a month later they'll be like, well, actually, and it'll be like a point lower. Didn't something like that happen?
That happened with PPI and CPI. So the producer price index, which measures the cost for people who are producing goods, and consumer price index, which is measuring the cost for people who are buying those goods that producers produce. So both of those got knocked down significantly in the last sessions.
Like by a whole point. It was like,
yeah.
It's like, why even bother publishing that initial number if you're going to get it that wrong?
PPI came back 2 months ago at, I want to say it was a 0.4%, 0.5%, and then it got revised to a negative 0.1%. Like, that's a massive whiff. That means it actually got cheaper for producers rather than significantly more expensive, because the original measure came in higher than anticipated, and then when it got revised, it went negative. And that's why we saw so much gain in the market almost a month ago now. And we'll see this all get revised again in a week when new data comes out.
All right, y'all. So, just whenever you see any of these numbers get published, obviously it moves the needle for people who are, trading on a daily basis and whatnot. But realize that it's not the last word on the topic of any of these things. All of these numbers measure something that happened before. That it's not telling you what's happening exactly right now. So for whatever it's worth. All right, I want to get into our topic of choice today, which is we really want to do a little bit of myth busting as far as some of the things that I think can become conventional wisdom for a lot of people. But it turns out that they are, misled, if you will. A good example, Joey, from your perspective, would be people that think that they absolutely must have 20% as a down payment to buy real estate. Is that true? Softball.
I apologize. I just had someone walk into my office. You're going to have to say all of that again.
All right. Do I need 20%?
It is not easy when when I'm the only one here. All right, let's go.
All right, Joey, myth busting. Is this a myth? Do I need? I need 20% down payment in order to purchase a home. Is that true or no?
Absolutely not, unless you're an investor and you're trying to buy investment properties.
Okay. Well, so what are my other options?
Well, if you're buying a primary residence, you got a few options. You got, not really in the Chicagoland area, but in the far suburbs, you got USDA at 0% down. You got conventional at a minimum of 3% down. If you want to buy multi-unit with conventional, you can do 5% down now. That's kind of nice. FHA, you can do 3.5% down. And the best loan that's ever been created in the history of time by God himself or herself, 0% down VA.
That's what's up. So, Sue, how do you go about dispelling that notion when you have a client or potential client come to you and they say, well, Sue, I'm not sure what I can afford. I have this much as a down payment.
Well, I think the reason that we're talking about this today is because we do have so many buyers confused on what the down is and what's the requirement. And so, my suggestion always is you have to talk to a lender first. You can't go online. You can't do an application online or on an app, because that's just not going to really tell you the whole story. And I let them know that before you think you can't buy a house, let somebody who knows what they're doing tell you you can buy a house. Mm-hmm. And, the biggest concern is I don't have enough money in the bank. I don't have enough money in the bank. I don't have enough reserves. So the biggest thing is just educating them on you probably need less than you think. And so many buyers today, and when I say they're overinformed, it's from their parents, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, who come from a mentality of you need 20% down because PMI is like that really scary 4-letter word, and you don't want to touch that. So,
I think it's a three-letter word.
Yeah, right, I know.
I think it's a word.
So, and then it's the underinformed who believe that, they don't qualify because they don't have 20% down. So no matter what, they just don't have the right information because they're not going to the right source. They're starting on social media. Or what a friend told them. Right. Yeah, well, maybe somebody did have to put 20% down to qualify what they were buying.
Yeah, something.
But every deal is, I say it's like every deal is tailored to your needs and to who you are in that transaction.
Yeah, Joey, let me give you a scenario, and you tell me if you can help me with a loan. I've got a good job, consistent income. I'm a W-2 employee. I make, whatever it is. Although I have a credit score under 700, and I maybe have $5,000 worth of savings in order to, make that work with a home purchase. Can you work with someone like that? Oh, I think someone else walked into the room. All right, we're going to table that question.
I muted myself. I'm sorry.
He was answering into the
we're
wind.
good. I was answering it on mute. That's how I roll.
All
and
right.
that is literally just in case someone walks into my office so you guys don't get bugged. So, potentially. I mean, how much are you trying to buy for? All those good things. In Illinois, we have these wonderful tax proration credits that work out really well to help offset. On FHA, if we went that route, you would still have to meet the minimum required investment. So we would have to see at least 3.5% of the purchase price in an account that belongs to you. Otherwise, it's coming from a gift. But, I mean, on its face, so far, I'm working with it.
Mm-hmm.
And your question, if I can just interject,
Yeah.
is my exact point of being misinformed. So you're like given this general scenario, but until Joey has all the facts, like you just said, from what you're telling me so far, sure, I can work with you. Mm-hmm. And that is the problem, I think, with the average buyer today. Yep. Even buyers who have bought before, this could be their second, third, fourth purchase. They forgot what they did. Mm-hmm. They've refied. They've done so many things that they don't remember what they did. So it is so specific to each person, which is why you can't just generally go search on the Google machine, can I buy a house with $5,000 in savings?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, just to add to what you just said, what you'll end up with is about 16 sponsored links, because that's what Google has come down to. If you Google anything related to current mortgage rates, you'll be on the 5th page before you get anything useful that's not an ad for someone trying to sell you a mortgage. And Joey, what's the value of someone either going to a website or an app or whatever and plugging in some numbers and it's spitting out whether or not they qualify for a loan? Is there any value to that really?
There's no value to that whatsoever, because on its face, like I said, I could get you a loan. Does that mean that I will be able to? I need more information. However, those apps, they'll just be like, yeah, you're good to go. Enjoy. That's a pre-approval now.
Yeah. And then you take that, attach it to a contract, and then when the moment comes, it's like, oh yeah, actually.
It fell through.
Well, okay. So let's pivot from that. I think we've kind of, given the general, my general advice on this, and Sue, please add or argue with me on it, is that if you're in a situation where you're either going to renew your rental or you're going to look for another rental or, maybe purchase, I think what you should do is talk to someone like Sue, talk to someone like Joey, and understand what your options are. If you have the option to buy, does that make sense for you? you really won't know unless you talk to someone that really knows what they're talking about and can give you the right advice. You might decide after that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to punt this down, for the next year and still rent or whatever. But you might actually find out that, you know what, I can buy and I can start to really get in on this appreciation that's taking place right now.
Yeah, you know, the theory is if you stay in your rental, you're paying 100% interest rate because your landlord's getting all your money. Whereas, and your mentality is because you've been only looking on Facebook or some app that you're going to pay 7 or 8%. But until you talk to somebody, you don't know. And wouldn't you rather pay possibly the same amount you're paying in rent at 7%, maybe 6.5? With a little bit of a tax write-off, you can paint the walls your own colors. You have a yard you can do what you want with, and nobody can tell you what to do. And you don't have to get back to that every 10 months. Do I want to re-up or do I want to buy? And so now I'm going to spend 30 days wrestling with what to do. And by the way, the landlord just hiked it $250 a month.
Yeah, their tax bill went up.
Right. So, I mean, your real estate bill, your tax bill, that's going to go up every year. And you're going to see an increase. Your insurance, of course, is going to go up. But the fear of not knowing where you're going to live next by being able to buy, that creates nights filled with sleep. Mm-hmm. And it's your own to do what you want with. And you have to really ask yourself, who do I want to give the money to? Nobody wants to give it to the mortgage company, right? But do you want to give it to the mortgage company or the landlord? Because now it's yours. And eventually you're building equity, which is building wealth.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. You know, it's really, all things considered equal, I would rather pay a mortgage than a rent if they're basically the same. And I'm hoping, and I don't know when. I know for a fact interest rates will either go up or go down, and they're never going to remain the same. Eventually, they will go down. I can't tell you when. If I could tell you when, forget it. I'd be out of here. I'm done. That's when is the thing, right? So, but I know that it's going to happen, and so I have some additional control, or I have additional resources available. I can refinance at that lower rate when that happens, and all of a sudden I'm getting the same thing for less.
And your landlord is not going to refi your rent.
Right.
I mean, there's no such thing as I'm going to give you a break because you're so great. I mean, unless that landlord's struggling to re-rent,
Right.
there's no deductions for you.
Yeah, you have endless possibilities when you own a property. You can sell it, you can keep it, you can rent it too, you could, refinance it, you can do all kinds of things. You can write it off on your business. It's just endless the things you can do that you really can't do on rent. There's only a one-way street on rent. Pay.
Right.
That's it.
No doubt.
Somebody else is laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm gonna, like I said 5 minutes ago, I'm gonna stick a pin in this one. I think we've kind of established that go talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes time to make your next choice on your housing. Now, when you make that choice and you decide, you know what, I think I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to buy, and you get under contract, you're going to meet someone like Mark at the property, and you're going to have some preconceived notions, I imagine, as a buyer. I'm using the royal you. That's not a thing. So you as a consumer, you consumers out there, are going to have some preconceived notions, and then you're going to meet Mark, and he's going to do what to set those expectations?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of times most people right off the bat think that the house is going to. Well, they're nervous that the house is going to have problems and that it's about to fall over. That's actually pretty rare. I haven't come across a house that fell over yet. Right. I've seen one on a couple news broadcasts, but that's about it. Most houses can be repaired. So that's a misconception. We're just going in to verify the status of that home. And with that, a lot of things, everybody's nervous at the beginning because they're just not, especially first-time home buyers, they're not used to the process of actually having or maintaining a house or anything. And so to get educated is actually the best thing you could do, is to have a home inspection, because you're going to find out the ages of everything. You're going to find out any major concerns that might be around, and then you're going to find out about, like, what simple maintenance have to be. Like, how should I change my filter on the furnace, or, when is a good time, to have the driveway refinished or have it sealed, stuff like that are just going to come up that you're going to learn along the process as we're just going through it, because that's the natural flow of everything. But also, if you have questions, you can ask. So,
Yeah, I think a buyer's biggest fear is that within that first 12 to 18 months of owning a home, they're going to have they've just exhausted their emergency fund by
They are broke.
using it as a down
they're
payment.
definitely broke.
The fear is that they're going to have to replace the furnace, AC, and water heater within the first year. And you're not Joey Stradamus, so you're not able to necessarily predict, but
great too.
you can kind of demystify, like, what kinds of stuff do you do? Like, how do you judge a furnace's performance? Let's say it's 20 years old. Like, how do you kind of what's the method of
So-
determining if it's still functioning, the way it should be?
Sure. So the very first thing is actually just how does it look and how does it sound? Does it look really old, super dirty? Does it sound really like a lot of buzzing and racketing and stuff? And then after that, we get really in depth. You figure out the age. How old is it? How old are going to be the components that are inside there? How long are they expected to live? Usually after 20 years, that's getting towards the end of most furnaces. Doesn't mean that they can't go on, and that they do go on. I mean, we've seen furnaces that run great at very old ages. But the only real good way to figure it out for sure that we found is to use a combustion analyzer.
Okay.
So we go
what does
in.
that tell you?
Well, it goes in and it takes the flue gases, and it's a little meter that reads it all, and it can tell you, okay, how efficient is it actually running? Well, how much carbon monoxide is it making? How much oxygen is it making? What are all the combinations of those that should be on a normal furnace, so that we have some sort of spec to go off of, okay, I know that a normal running furnace that's of this condition should be at these numbers, and we can say, yeah, it's running at those numbers. It looks good. It sounds good. I think it's in pretty good shape. It's still going. So that way we can assuage the fears that it's impossible to know, and just look at it and be like, I don't know, I don't know anything about furnaces. Is it going to work or not? We can start to actually put data behind it, which I think
It's huge.
that's
And buyers are not only just worried about what's it going to cost me. In a market like this, they're so afraid to rock the seller's world by telling them your furnace isn't working right. And I guarantee you that seller probably knew his furnace wasn't okay. But they're so afraid to upset the seller to tell them that the furnace isn't right after an inspection that they're almost as nervous about the cost for them as taking a chance of losing a deal because of a furnace.
Yeah. So then again, that's a great example of if you have some evidence-based facts that you can point to numbers and stuff. Hey, it's at least we're not just saying, oh no, I think it's broken. We have some numbers to be like, nah, this isn't going well.
Yeah,
and most of those sellers know it. The sellers are aware of their house. Unless you got somebody who hasn't lived there, it's an estate, or those sellers know it. They know what's coming.
Yeah, the standard thing I see on an inspection report is, furnace is, X plus years old. It's beyond its useful life, which is a useless phrase. I mean,
you don't love the way that we write that?
I mean, well, listen, at what age am I beyond my useful life?
This
right?
is true.
What do? I tick over to 75 and it's like, oh yeah, he's beyond his useful life.
Yeah.
If I live another 15 years, I'm probably useful on some level.
Yeah.
So it's like, not a useful phrase. It's more of one of those CYA phrases because what happens when that thing craps out. 6 months, when they go crank it up in October, and it goes, no, thank you. And you're out $3,000 for a new furnace, or $3,000 plus. I mean, I'm not quoting prices here.
Man, some people have some really fancy furnaces.
I was gonna say you're in the 6 to 8 range probably right now.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how big your house is, I've only, my experiences with smaller, I replaced a 1,100 square foot house. I replaced the furnace, AC, and the water heater all in one summer. That was great.
Oh,
so that was a $6,000 experience. But now I don't have to worry about them. Well, that's not true. The AC crapped out a year and a half in. Don't get me started. I am, I'm just gonna go down a dark hole of anger, and
We don't want you to do that.
No, I kind of ruined the rest of this show. So let's not do that. So Sue, what are your strategies, I suppose, to more or less get a buyer in a state where they have as good understanding as possible about some of the stuff that I think often gets overlooked, like the mechanicals and anything that's not bright and shiny, like countertops and flooring and, all of that stuff that people go, yeah, I love that. Oh, it's just the perfect color gray that, on the walls. What are the strategies? Because once it gets to me, if we've got that phrase beyond its useful life, it's useless to me. And now I have to have that, sad conversation with the buyer, which is, there's not much we can do about this. Maybe a home warranty, which I got opinions about that, and they're not good. How do you approach that?
I think at the time you're showing a house, you first have to be very. I like to always say, you're going to come in the house and fall in love with it. My job is to talk you out of it. If I'm not talking you out of that house, I'm not doing my job. So while you're looking at the pretty quartz and the brand new white cabinets and, oh my God, look at that dining room fixture. Yeah, okay, great. Now, I want you to come downstairs and look at this furnace that they've never even dusted the outside of. So I can guarantee you that the cover is so corroded, they've never been inside of it. So I try to limit the expectations of how great or how bad it is at the time we first see it. Yep. I'm one of those real estate brokers who says, gladly bring mom and dad. Let's hear what they have to say.
Yeah, that's a risky move.
It is a risky move, but I will tell you.
That shows that you're confident.
I am confident because when you call a mom or a dad out to say you're not making the mortgage payment, you're not living here, so are you willing to help them offset the cost of these repairs that you envision coming? It does change the conversation. But I think if you head off a lot of that scare at the time of the first showing, and right now it's usually the only showing because you don't have time for a second showing, it makes the inspection a little bit more level-headed. Yeah. And then it's talking to them before the inspection and preparing them for what he can and cannot find. Because I think a lot of buyers go in with this idea of, well, we think there might be water behind that paneled wall. Well, he's not going to pull the paneling off. Right. Like he can use a really fancy tool to tell you about a humidity, but he can't tell you if black mold or orange mold's back there. So I think a lot of buyers just really need to understand the expectations. And if that doesn't happen from the very beginning and you don't constantly talk about that, by the time they get to that home inspection, they're not. By the time they get to the home inspection, if you've done that, they're more prepared for him to tell them some of those scary points. Yeah. And maybe they realize maybe this isn't so scary.
Right.
I
totally agree. I think that we find a lot of times that, when you're even in the first few moments of just setting up people's expectations and saying what you can and can't do, what I'm here to do, I'm just here to point out the current status of the home. I can do as much as I can do, but I also want to make you confident and aware of what you're doing.
Right.
And that awareness is actually dissolving all the misconceptions, right? Because now that they're aware, they can make their own decisions, and then that hopefully relaxes some of their stuff. Sometimes I'm sure it causes panic.
It does a little bit, but they have to go in with realistic expectations. And I always explain to them that home inspection is for health hazard safety. Like, just because that $2 wall plate's cracked doesn't mean you have electrical issue.
Right?
Yeah. And a home inspector, you guys are jack of all trades, right? You have to know a little bit about everything, and sometimes you have to bring somebody in who is just HVAC, is just heating and cooling. But if you don't set those expectations from day one with that client, most of those people are never going to actually close.
Right.
They're going to just keep killing deals because they're so overwhelmed with what. I mean, their report, if you've ever seen a home inspection report, and especially Chicagoland, it's very involved. It's very detailed. So it can be a little scary because, wait, I don't even remember when he covered that. Where were we? Oh, yeah, we were looking at the brand new kitchen faucet. Yeah. We were looking at the touchless faucet. No, the kids will play with this all the time. So I think you have to set off that expectation from day one.
Yeah, so I love what you said about I'm here to talk you out of buying the house, because I literally just posted yesterday, and this is something I've been saying quite a bit, is that Charlie didn't want us to get into this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So
it's going off script.
Yes, he is.
One way I can tell you don't know about real estate is if you say to me that a buyer's broker's job is so much easier because of the internet, because the buyer is going to find the house for you and all you're doing is opening a door. If you say that, I know you don't know caca. I'm allowed to say caca, I think, right? Devin's not paying attention. And really it's about the real estate broker for the buyer. Their job is not to find the house. Their job is to help you not buy the wrong house.
Yeah, honestly, we are the vessel to get you in the door.
Yeah.
We're the only one that can make the appointment. You can't. You're the buyer. You can't. You don't have access. I'm the only one who has the access to the key box. You don't. So you can find the house on 55 different apps today and call me about it. But you need me to not just get you in that house, but then you need me to tell you why you don't want to buy that house. Because I will tell you, the bells and the whistles will sell a house every day of the week. Everybody wants a flipped house or rehabbed house until you start pointing
No,
to
you
them and
don't.
say, you do realize that floor vent is cut completely crooked. So if it was like that on the outside, what was it like on the inside of the walls? So yeah, I think you have to go into it with the intention of, I'm actually your advocate, and anybody can find the shiny things. Anybody can.
Right.
I'm going to
That's the
show
easy
you
part.
all the reasons it's not shiny.
Yeah, I can't. I can go into just story after story after story about looking at flipped homes inspection reports, and you just go, how, why, who, what? No. What ends up happening more often than not is the flipped home goes on the market when it's about 90% done.
Always.
And then it gets sold, and then, rather than being a proper professional about it and doing their own punch list and sorting everything out so that they are going to have a nice, clean inspection, they let someone like Mark do their punch list because they figure, well, whatever he misses, I don't have to do it.
Right.
And I hate that attitude. I hate that approach. I'm sure it's taught by some schmo that has an online course about how to make the most out of your flip. But I'm telling you that's the wrong way to go about it. That's a great way to get yourself a bad reputation.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you're buying a flip, you have to go into it with glasses on.
Oh yeah.
You got to take the blinders off, and you got to stop because you're looking at something that's all new. I don't have to do anything. I want a house
Wrong.
I can just move into.
Wrong.
Okay, sure. All right. Well, I'm going to find that house for you. But now you also want a house that is going to pass that inspection and that you're going to be able to close on, insure, and live in without being, I always tell first-time home buyers, I need you to have $5,000 in the back of your head from day one because you're going to put $5,000 into the house in your first year.
Probably.
It might be paint. It might be a floor. It might be the fridge started leaking. $5,000 minimal. So if you're buying a flip, I need you to think a lot higher because all he did was make it shiny. All they did was clean it up and make it pretty.
Yeah, if it's a flip, go straight to that unfinished basement. Go
That's
straight
right.
to that utility closet. If you can get your eyeballs on the roof, get them on
Yeah.
the roof. Take a look at the gutter system. Is it in good shape? Take a look at the masonry. I mean, it doesn't take an expert to figure out if something is desperately in need of tuck pointing. Every time I see a picture of a chimney that is a masonry chimney, it's a homeowner doesn't look up like that.
Right.
They
No.
don't. And by the time you look up, you go, where's the mortar? I don't see any.
How's that brick staying in place?
Or why is that brick hanging?
Yeah, right.
It's
on the
remarkable.
ground?
I mean, I can go on and on about flips, but we probably shouldn't.
They're the most critical ones to have inspected for sure, and sometimes we can find some ones that are really truly great. Those are actually less so.
Few and far between, I would say.
But most of the time, there's there's things to know about flips. So just I like what Sue said, just go in with with your glasses on, so you have an inspection and you're starting to deal with the fact that you can get your head wrapped around it.
That flipper probably owned that house for 4 months.
Yeah, right.
The person you're buying from that has lived there for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years that didn't put in the brand new quartz or the shiny, the touchless faucet,
Yeah.
they know everything about their house. And they may not have done the counters because they had to put the money in the central air.
Right.
So you got to think about how long did that flipper own the house? Did the flipper own the house with just one heavy rain, 2 heavy rains, snow? What did it hit?
Yeah, it's always like, well, I don't know what happened with this house because I've only owned it for a short period of time. One thing that I've forgotten to do, and Charlie will scold me for this, is we're supposed to go around the horn. Mark,
You can't say around the horn.
I can't.
No, they own that.
Devin, cut that out if you would. Joey, please introduce yourself, remind us who you are, and tell us about how many people have walked in while we've been broadcasting.
I have actually not had to mute myself since. I have just enjoyed sitting here silently. But I am Joey Mathews. I am the VA loan nerd, and I love VA loans. You can call or text me at 630-235-2405. Find me at thevaloannerd.com or across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd.
That is really good information. And talking about misconceptions, let's talk about VA loans after we're done going around the board. I don't know.
Around the room.
Around the room.
There you go.
Mark, introduce yourself, please.
Hey, Mark McCutcheon. I'm a home inspector with Chicagoland Home Inspectors. You can reach us on the web at thehomeinspectors.com, or you can call 312-544-9180. We're unique in that Charlie will do a post-inspection review of the reports with people, which everybody finds super, super helpful. So.
Indeed, it's unique in that nobody else in the Chicagoland area that I'm aware of does that, and I cannot tell you how much value that provides. I mean, I know it sounds like I'm brown nosing you, but I'm not. I don't say stuff I don't believe in because it would negatively affect my reputation. Sue, please introduce yourself.
I have to add to that though. Charlie puts out fires before they become fires by that phone
that's
call.
perfect.
He
Perfect.
really does.
Oh, yeah.
He really does.
Fireman.
Joey, putting out fires. You know something about that.
I am Sue Pearce. I am of the Sue Pearce team. I work with JW Reedy Real Estate. They've been around since 1928. Family-owned business. Proud to say it's still family-owned and run, which I love. You can reach me by email at team@Sue, S-U-E, Pearce, Pearce.com. You can text me or call me at 630-675-9979. And yes, I am on all those wonderful social media apps at Team Sue Pearce Team.
As we all are. Would you like
Yes.
to say hi to anyone in particular today?
Well, I just want to thank my team member, Amy Finnegan. We have been on a team together for way too long, and there's many times that I get a little over-emotional about a deal. I feel like somebody's maybe trying to stick it to the other side, or maybe they're having it stuck to them, and Amy keeps me grounded. Amy Finnegan says, okay, slow down, step back, think before you do something. We don't want to upset the wrong person.
I need my own Amy Finnegan, what it sounds like. My name is Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer. You would find me if you are buying or selling a home. You want to make things go smoothly, or not. Sometimes it's not meant to go smoothly. Sometimes it's meant to get you out of that bad situation. Whatever happens, I am your guy. Find me on social media at TikTok at Loftus Love. Just forget my name. On Instagram at Loftus_law. I might forget my name sometimes, but I will not forget about my clients. Tell you what. Speaking of, did I miss anyone? Speaking of VA loans, Joey Mathews, the VA loan nerd, tell me the top misconception about VA loans.
I am watching it happen live on Facebook right now, and it's hilarious. What extra money does it cost a seller to accept a VA loan? And the answer is zero. However, with another lawsuit, we got some stuff still
We're
going on.
not supposed to talk about that.
Well, no, the VA is going to release a circular, and they're going to allow veterans to pay buyers commissions. That's what the circular is going to say. I'm not making the announcement until it's official, but that's what's going to happen. So,
Oh boy.
and when I say announcement, I mean social
Soft
media. The
announcement.
radio doesn't count for the 10 people that are listening. But no, like the pest inspection, people think that the seller has to buy a pest inspection for the buyer, and that's just completely incorrect. It's
And what does a
incorrect.
pest inspection cost anyway?
Well, it depends on who's doing it. So, Mark, why don't you tell us that?
Well, usually for us, it's going to be just, I don't even know if he charges for that.
I've seen is, 100, 150 bucks,
Yeah.
Yep.
it's like
in that
150 bucks.
ballpark. So
200 is the most I've ever seen.
yeah, so if your VA loan, if your offer that is with a VA loan is $5,000 more, you're still doing fine. If you absolutely positively have to pay for that pest inspection as a seller. But Joey, if I'm making an offer with on a VA loan and I've got zero down, does that mean I'm broke?
That doesn't zero down. So I'm glad you said zero down and zero in the bank, because I heard zero in the bank for a second until I re-listened.
Well, zero in the bank would mean I, in fact, broke.
Yeah.
But zero, I'm offering you X amount. I'm going to make a zero down payment. Does that mean I'm poor?
No, that just means that you're smart with your assets right now, because you're making more in your dividends than you are losing in interest every time you make a payment on your mortgage. So that's my opinion. I'm a huge fan of zero down. I've never put money down on a house, and I never will.
Now, how do you, in this competitive environment, I know one thing you do is you're going to contact anyone. You're going to contact the listing broker for any one of your buyers that is going to be making an offer, to give them an idea of who you are, how you work, and how qualified your buyer is. How do you offset some of the misconceptions about VA loans that, there's extra paperwork involved? They've got this appraisal that's going to make them do a bunch of, work that they don't want to do. There's not enough money down. We've got this other offer that's at 20%.
I love your fears because that's what you have to deal with. So on my end, I won't even say it's easy, but it's a conversation, right? You have to confront the fears head on, period. Does the VA allow for appraisal gap waivers? They absolutely do. And there's a misconception about what the VA amendatory clause and what it is and what it isn't. People believe that the amendatory clause, even if you're offering a gap waiver, is a get out of jail free card for the buyer. And it's not. It's not. The VA will not get involved in you can call the regional loan centers yourself and ask to speak to legal. They will not get involved in a legal dispute when a veteran enters into a contract that offers a gap waiver and the appraisal falls in short of the contract but within the gap. You will have to honor that contract. The VA will expect you to honor the contract you signed. The amendatory clause does not protect you from that. Sorry, I got heated right away.
No, this is good stuff,
Passion
man. You have enlisted me to be an advocate for VA loans since we've been broadcasting together, and so it's my well, what do I say? I really enjoy getting this information out, to as many people as we can, because I don't want veterans to be viewed as like, there's this like second class loan that they're utilizing to buy real estate. It is very much a first class loan.
Yeah, this is the best loan.
And by the way,
it's a perk.
Joe, to add to your appraisal gap waiver conversation, so the mandatory clause, okay, fine. You're not going to get away from the mandatory clause if you're doing VA or FHA. But even if you're conventional, unless there is a separate appraisal gap waiver, and I've talked to the agent about how were those conversations had. I'm probably going to ask for an appraisal contingency anyway during an attorney review. So that appraisal contingency is almost always going to be a part of the transaction. So if you think some kind of way about the amendatory clause, I don't have good news for you if you're accepting that conventional over the VA loan, because you're going to end up in the same position most likely. So,
well, and on that gap waiver, not everybody understands what it is. So to the basic consumer listening, and Joey should explain that, but before I give him that window,
no, you take it. I like it.
You've got a buyer who's, I'm going to do everything I can to buy this house. It's the first one I've seen that I actually like that's available, so I'm going to do everything. One of them is going to be an appraisal gap waiver, which means I'm going to pay the difference between what I wrote my offer for and what it appraises for. And that's all fine and good, except for the problem is if that person doesn't have the cash to do it, it doesn't matter.
No.
So if you're an agent and you're writing an offer with a gap waiver, you better know that your buyer's got the funds to meet that, or you're wrecking your reputation by presenting offers that you're not prepared for.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had loan officers call me and say, why did this get written? Like, they don't have that extra money. Well, they told me they did because you gave them a pre-approval. Yeah, no. Guess what? We're now using everything we can. So, I mean, what it comes down to is the house has to appraise, and if it doesn't appraise, you're coming up with a big chunk of cash as a buyer if you use that.
Yeah, it certainly is a risk, and you definitely want to make sure you are you have sufficient liquidity. And honestly, before I would ever write such an offer, and my client was like, "Yeah, let's go," firing all the guns. My first call before I'm sending out an offer in is to Joey. I'm going to go, Joey, can we do this with an appraisal gap waiver? And if he says it's a no-go, you have to go back to your client and go, we've got to maybe dial down the size of the gun. To use the.
You can only put so many sprinkles on something. You can only make it shine so much. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Right.
Yeah. In the UK they call sprinkles hundreds and thousands.
Really?
Yeah, they've got all sorts of weird names for stuff over there.
I call it BS.
I love it here.
Sue really is a straight shooter.
I am, yeah.
I love working with her. I love when I go to inspections and you're there and I'm just like, oh man, this is gonna be great.
Well, Tim doesn't have my favorite thing about Tim on today is his hat.
Oh yeah.
No,
Tim wears a great hat when he's on. I'm sorry, Mark.
Well,
sorry,
that's fine.
Mark.
I know, but Tim wears one too, and so does AJ. So
Tim does too, but really, Mark, your hat's my favorite.
Thank you.
That's all those drummer
My
guys.
favorite home inspection ever with you was on a St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
where you walked up with that hat.
Oh boy.
And you
Yeah.
know, you got a little bit of that red hair, and my client says, "Is he really Irish?"
He's a leprechaun.
It's just today. Yeah. Every day, unfortunately for me, I'm a leprechaun. Yeah.
Mark, I'm following you home to find that pot of gold. So, Sue,
Let me know. I'm gonna borrow from it.
let me give you. Let me say something, and you tell me if it's a misconception. So, I'm a seller in this market, and I think to myself, you know what? I'm going to put my house on the market. I want to get top dollar, so I should. I'm not going to do any work, right? I'm not going to put any effort or money into preparing the home for sale because I'm the only game in town, or there's only 3 properties like mine. I'm going to price it maybe $10K more than I think it might appraise for because I think that there's a buyer out there that's going to snap at that. Are there any misconceptions in what I just said?
Well, the joke right now is you can throw you-know-what to a wall to stick and sell. Okay, so let's start with that. So again, just like every buyer's transaction's tailored different, every house is different. If you have a house in a subdivision, a location where there's been nothing on for months, you probably can do all of that. But that being said, at some point that buyer realizes, what did I just do? And so those things you let go, like leaving the gutters filled with helicopters and now cicadas, if you haven't cleaned those out and you've had the weather appropriate to do it, that's probably going to come back for you. So I think that is a little bit of a misconception. I mean, we'll get back to appraisal. It's got to appraise. Unless you got a buyer who's so flush with cash, it's got to appraise. And if you've got a cash buyer, there's a good chance they're willing to only go so high over what you're asking for, because at the end of the day, they still got to write a big check out of their savings account.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a little bit of a misconception.
Yeah, I don't think that a buyer wants to feel like they're being hosed either, right? They want
No.
to stay within what is the normal for that area. So it's always going to be relative to what everything else in the neighborhood's going for, and then to go too far over is pretty rare.
And as we were talking about earlier, cash buyers prove there's value because cash buyers don't have an appraisal. They prove value. So if your comparables as a buyer you're looking at are cash deals, that's pretty much your value.
Yeah, and you talk about what is the fact of there being more cash buyers out there than perhaps in other markets? What does that suggest? What it suggests to me is that there's value to be had. It's the same reason why, and unfortunately this is not happening here in Illinois, but you've got a lot of homes being snapped up by big investors. Why is that? It's because they're seeing value out there. They've done the analysis and they go, these markets are vastly undervalued, and so they're snapping these homes up with cash. And the reason that they're able to win a lot of these bidding wars is because the other people who are bidding and they are using financing, they are buying a home not necessarily based on what they're paying for it. They're buying it based on what the monthly payment is.
Right.
And that makes you very sensitive to interest rates. And even if you can stretch and get that house, just at the top of what you can borrow, hoping that in the next 18 months or less you can refinance at a lower rate. That is a scary proposition, I think, to most people, especially if they're not feeling 100% secure that their financial condition is going to at least stay the same, if not improve, hopefully, over that period of time.
Right. Well, and sellers, sometimes they forget that once it's closed, it's not their problem. So I don't care if they can't afford the house in 12 months if I'm a seller.
Well,
But for sellers, a lot of times they want a cash buyer because they feel like there's not as many hurdles for them. And you try to explain to them, you got one hurdle, you got an appraisal. If we're going to get through that, we've done all of our checking with this loan officer. We know that they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's. But to a lot of sellers, it's the idea of cash is easy. Well, we all know cash isn't easy.
It's
Sometimes
not.
cash buyers have the most demands afterwards.
well, and after the inspection, cash buyers have a tendency to pull the ripcord more than people who are getting financing. And if a financed buyer, even if it's like an FHA or if it's 5% down, if they're offering me $10,000 more and I'm not worried about the appraisal, and I've got a Joey who's called me and I'm feeling great about the buyer and the lender, I don't see why I wouldn't advise my buyer to forego the cash buyer, take more money, and this thing's almost certainly gonna close.
Well, for a long time, we've talked about buyers' love letters, offer letters. And I will tell you, the best love letter a buyer can write is a solid team. Have your lender available to talk to the seller's agent. Know that your attorney does real estate. not divorce law, and know that you've got a home inspector that goes in there educated and level-headed.
So you know, it sounds like I'm gonna. Once again, it's gonna sound like I'm brown nosing you, but literally a phrase that I've used more than a few times is real estate is a team sport.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, if those lines of communication, if you've got, and I'm just going to throw lawyers under the bus. If you've got a lawyer who's hard to get in touch with, and you know, I experienced it myself. You call, you know, John Smith, the lawyer, and someone else answers, and you go, hey, can I speak with John Smith? And they go, hey, they're not available. Is there something I can help you with? I know at that point that I'm talking to the person who's handling the transaction for
Right.
that lawyer.
Right.
And you go, okay, and that's fine. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to handle some of these things, but you know, sometimes you really do need to speak with the lawyer about something. And you know, if they're hard to get in touch with, especially if it's your lawyer, if it's the other side's lawyer, you know, it is what it is. But if it's your lawyer, wow. I mean, you know.
And that's buyers. Well, I'm going to buy a house with my buddy. Great. Well, who's your buddy work for? Yeah, I don't know. He only does it on the weekends. You got a problem.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you got a solid gold team. And in any market, you want that, but especially in a market like this.
Yeah, I just wouldn't hire a part-time anything
Right.
to make the biggest investment that I'm probably going to make in my entire life, whether it be the real estate broker, the inspector who, you know, also, you know, does something else, the lawyer who, you know, dabbles in 20 different practice areas, is, you know, overextended. You know, lawyers love to overextend themselves. Oh, I have a hearing at 2. Oh, I've got 3 closings on that day, and I can only fit you in at 5:30. You know, whatever it is. You know, it's super frustrating when you're dealing with people who aren't rowing in the same direction as you are. But when you have that right team, it's
going to go smooth. I can guarantee you this. If you've got the right team, you can get through almost anything that goes on in that transaction because you've always got somebody knowledgeable, experienced, and they actually have your back. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
I think that's what leads to being able to sleep at night. Otherwise, that if you don't have the right team, that's when the nerves will go through the roof
Right.
and things get crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll certainly get a lot of lawyers that are skeptical of the other people on their team because, you know, they've got some kind of ego problem or whatever it is, and they go, well, you know, I went to more school than everyone else in this transaction combined. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Well, you know, the dumbest people on the planet are people who just graduated law school because they think they know everything and they don't know nothing. Once again, had
real life experience.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely zero. I'll tell you a quick story, and then we're gonna go around the room.
Yeah, I think we're at 52. So.
All right, yeah. My first day, my first job as a lawyer, I walked in. There's a stack of files, and I start going through, and I was just like, well, I'm screwed. I have no idea what any of this is. And, you know, fortunately, my then boss came in and explained everything to me. But that's the level of ignorance you're talking about when you talk about recent law grads. All right, Mark, real quick, tell me about you.
As you've just heard, I am a home inspector, very good at my craft. And you can reach me at the Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Thehomeinspectors.com is how you can reach us. And if you need to email me, it's mark@chicagolandhomeinspectors.net. And let me grab the phone digits for you guys. It's 312-544-9180. Give us a call. We'll check it out.
And you guys have a school too, right?
Yep. So Charlie runs the school, and it's like it's kind of in different schools as well. So like some of the schooling is actually through some of the community colleges and stuff, and you can sign up and learn to become a home inspector yourself, take courses online. And it's really great. So, and I help educate with Charlie on that as well. So we do live events, we do in class, online, all that stuff.
If you enjoy a profession that can allow a lot of freedom and satisfaction, I recommend that you perhaps look into pursuing that, and contacting Charlie or Mark is a great way to start. Real quick, tell us about your band and tell us where we can find you.
My Canadian Girlfriend is the band, mycanadiangirlfriend.com, and we have some new tracks coming out, a whole bunch. There's going to be probably like 15 new songs coming out in the next 3 months or so.
All right, he's going home right now to continue mixing the album. Yeah. Joey, tell us about you.
Why, I am Joey. I am the VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd. You can call or text me at 630-235-5385. 2405. It's not obvious, but I effing love VA loans.
Can you say that? We have to cut
You
that
can say effing. Come on.
I said it twice. Sue, tell us about you.
I am
and
Sue
say hi
Pearce.
to someone special.
I am Sue Pearce of the Sue Pearce team with Amy Finnegan, my business team member who keeps me grounded. You can reach me by phone at 630-675-9979 or text because it's easier. You can email me at team, at Sue, S-U-E, Pearce, Pearce.com. And yes, we are on all the social media. And I believe that the number one point of being a real estate broker is being able to say no.
Yes.
As in, no, you should not buy that house.
Yes. Help your client establish good, healthy boundaries between
Yes.
them and a bad piece of real
Means that
estate.
Sue's confident. She knows what you need.
Yes.
That's
there you go.
so important.
Have a little bit of faith.
And just to finish things off, I'm Patrick Loftus. I'm a real estate lawyer, and as we said, I'm not dabbling in no divorce. Ugh. None of that. Just do real estate. Just stick with one thing, and you can find me on social media at Loftus_law on Instagram, at Loftus Law on TikTok. Come find me. I say controversial stuff, and then you can fight with people in the comment section. Or if you want to hire me, reach out to me on either of those platforms. Follow me. We'll get a DM conversation going, and I'll help you have a smooth real estate transaction. Guys, this has been the Homebuyers Hour on WCPT, where facts matter. I'd like to thank Sue, Mark, and Joey for being with us today. And with that, I'm out.